Welcome to Dropping In, a podcast of storytelling and interviews with your host, Winter Olympian Mercedes Nichol.
Thank you so much for dropping in today. This is series 6, where we are having some fun with retired athletes and talking about what it was like to be on the road. I was on the road for 20 years living out of a suitcase. I have lots of stories to share, and I know all my other friends that are Olympians do as well. Thank you for dropping in on episode 53. Let me introduce the guest that we will be dropping in with today. This guest is Canada's top male windsurfer. Born and raised in Vancouver, Canada, he's been windsurfing from the age of 17. At a young age, doctors predicted he would never be able to play sports due to asthma and allergies. He looked to prove them wrong and hoped to compete in his first Olympics in Athens 2004. Unfortunately, injury took him out. He has a black belt in Taekwondo, and he did represent Team Canada at 2 Olympics in Beijing 2008 and London 2012. He's also a successful businessman alongside his sister, creating Ilia Beauty in 2011, pushing the boundaries of innovation in the cosmetics industry. This son, brother, uncle, friend, 2-time Olympian is someone who I know is always on the road. Let me introduce Zac Plavsic. Hello.
Hi, Mer.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Are you ready to drop in with the rapid fire that are never rapid fire questions?
Let's do rapid fire.
Okay, number 1. There's 10 questions.
Okay.
What is one thing you traveled with that was a must-have for your sport?
Wetsuits. I had to have wetsuits. And then I had to have
Wetsuits.
wetsuits.
Just lost you there for a second.
Oh yeah.
Got you back. Wetsuits.
Wetsuits.
Okay.
That's kind of boring.
What about windsurfboards and
I
all
mean,
that?
well,
You
obviously,
need-
yeah, we had to have our windsurf boards and our windsurf sails. I mean, there's one thing that I always traveled with, and that was, this isn't a plug, but was like at the time was my vitamin pack, actually.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So my mom would pack me a little vitamin pack, and it was like
Awesome.
C and calcium and potassium, and she's like, you need to make sure you get a good sleep and don't get sick, and so I had a little vitamin
I
pack. So
love
that
your
was
mom.
so that was something I always traveled with. Okay,
Nice.
next. Rapid.
Okay, next. Number 2, who might be the most high-profile contact in your phone?
Atticus Poetry, maybe? Or another friend, she manages Carly Kloss and Lewis Hamilton. Maybe that one?
I don't even know who these people are.
Lewis.
I know who these people are.
Yes!
You're like, you like know all these people, and I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know.
Lewis Hamilton's the one of the most winning Formula One racers in the world. Like, he's like the
Copy that.
modern day Schumacher.
I only just watched my first Formula One when I was in Mexico in the fall.
No, wait, I have a better one.
Okay.
What's Tom's last name? He played Draco Malfoy on Harry Potter. Tom.
Cool.
I got.
Anyways, Draco Malfoy. You got
Draco
him.
Malfoy. Yeah.
That's random. Do you know him?
Yeah, sure. We ran into each other at a cactus club, and then ended up like chatting, and then became buddies.
You did.
And apparently he came over, and he ended up playing the guitar, and he's like actually a rad little inspo musician. So yeah.
Sounds like a cool cat.
Yeah, nice guy.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah, not a bad guy. Not like
not a bad guy like in the movies.
Really, really nice guy.
Number 3, speaking of music, what is the top song or playlist you have on right now?
Right now, I've become a SoundCloud fan, and
I'm sorry, what was that?
SoundCloud.
Oh, SoundCloud, yeah.
And I have this, so it's like not your typical Spotify, but There's like this
Can you say it out loud for our listeners?
vintage,
Vintage.
yeah,
Is it like a
mix by
playlist?
70s, 80s, 90s vintage mix by Kelso, and it's like 70s, 80s, and 90s mixed in with a little bit of a beat, and it's very well mixed, and it's a nice listening. It's on
Vintage
SoundCloud.
on SoundCloud. I like
Yeah,
that.
vintage mix by Kelso.
By Kelso. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4. If you could go back to an Olympics, would you choose winter or summer?
Ooh, I would choose summer.
You would
I
choose
would
summer
still-
over again.
I would
There's
still
so
choose
many
summer.
athletes. There's so many athletes.
There's a lot of athletes, but hey, you know what? I got to chase the sun around for 10 months a year.
I know, now you're in Whistler and you're getting all the snow.
Now I'm in Whistler, so I'm still getting to do my winter sports and have fun and hang out with all my winter friends, but I got a lifetime of summer, so.
I dig
Yeah.
it. That's good. Number 5, if you were invisible, what's the first thing that you would do?
If I That's a very I
It's a
would
great question, isn't it?
yeah, it is a really great question. I feel like I would just steal all the money from every single bank and like
That's
corporation
what I was
and give it back to all the people.
Oh, Robin Hood. Nice. Nice. That's totally fair. I like it. Number 6, big city or small town?
Small town.
Because you're in Whistler now, and you were also in Laguna. You were always and then Vancouver?
Yeah, but I was on the outskirts of Vancouver.
Yeah.
There's something. Maybe it's like I'm Canadian and I enjoy my space, like all
Yeah.
of us do, and like most people around the world do. And we've seen like overpopulation
Mhm.
really kind of hit. So when I was born, there was 3.2 billion people, and now there's 7.8 or 7.9. So small town, a little more space, a little less people.
I hear ya.
Yeah, it's nice. I can keep my like little energy bubble.
I like it. Number 7, what would you say the biggest risk you have taken is?
Oh, there's so many. Hmm. Sport wise or business wise?
Your choice. You could say both.
I think the biggest risk I took was business wise, and that was when I started a recycling company with 3 other friends. So it was like friendship, and then I think we were a mattress recycling business, and we were like lobbying with the governments, and then all of a sudden a bylaw went through it that we didn't know was going to go through, and then we like became the first region in the world to recycle mattresses, and they were prohibited from landfills, and then we had to
Amazing.
deal with 100 to 150,000 mattresses every year, which was a lot every day, and we were not properly prepared for it. I mean, we figured it all out and saved a lot of the environment while we were at it, but that was a crazy risk. There was a lot on the line.
I remember you telling me about that. Like,
Line of credit from my dad. I was maxed out. It was a lot big risk.
oh man. I love it. That's good. Number 9. No, wait. That was biggest risk. Number 8. After retirement from the Olympics, has your view changed at all on the Olympics?
View changed at all?
Yeah.
Sorry, you broke up there. Yeah. Yes. I don't know if it's become more commercial or not. It kind of felt like before Instagram and maybe before like these sponsorship things, there was a little bit more of an essence to. It wasn't such a thing just to, you didn't want to go to the Olympics to say you went to the Olympics or something like that. Like it was more like you wanted to be the best at your sport. And I feel like because of the popularity of it and the clout that you get with it or whatever it is now, I feel like it's changed a little bit in my mind. And there's still the majority of athletes, by far the majority of athletes that are going there really excited about it. I mean, everyone's excited about it. And then
Yeah,
also
for sure.
to commercialization, I feel like the IOC is, I mean, I'm going to speak openly because that's what I do. I feel like the IOC is actually selling their soul a little bit.
Mm,
And it's sad to see.
yeah.
And it's sad to see at the sacrifice of some of the performances, or like maybe athletes being associated with certain sponsors or something like that, that's really not promoting a healthy lifestyle, which is what want to we want to do. We want to share that. We want to embody that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. Did you know that KFC was at these Olympics?
I mean, point in case.
All I can do is laugh. I'm like, "Oh gosh, it is what
Yeah.
it is."
I'm like, mm,
All
anyway,
right, moving on, number 9. What would you say the best way to travel is?
the best way to travel.
Mm,
Um, now, I've crossed oceans on boats. I've been in far too many planes and road trips and everything. And I think the best way to travel is with a minimal amount of stuff,
yes.
regardless of where you're going and how you're traveling.
Yeah,
Just like, because how many people pack a bag and like really actually don't even use 75% of it? And I'm guilty of that. And I
I
still
am
do it.
totally guilty of that.
Yeah. And I'm like, you're on a ski trip and you're only wearing
Your long
10%.
johns over
Yeah,
and over
over and
again.
over and over again, and you're wearing the same pair of jeans, and then you maybe wear like 2 different t-shirts, and then like you still shower, but like
Yeah,
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 just
yeah.
so minimal stuff, and then also just like mm, I think at your tempo. So some people like going to the airports early. Some people like leaving more time on road trips so they can stop and enjoy things.
True.
Whatever your tempo is, I think it's important to travel at your tempo.
What
And
is
if you're
your travel tempo? Are you early to the airport?
no, I'm like
You're like
I,
almost missed the plane.
I've traveled enough where I show up at the airport and then walk through the gate, and
Yeah.
then I'm like straight onto the plane, and then they close the gate and then it
How
takes
many planes have you missed?
off. 6.
Well, you can count?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate to say I've probably missed more than 6.
Well, but you live in Whistler, so there's more factors involved because you got to drive the
I
highway.
like to think that that's really kind of you to think that. Most of the time, it's pilot error on
Oh.
my behalf.
Oh. Yeah. Maybe
That's funny.
yeah. I mean, everyone misses
And then
them.
oh,
So
wait, okay, so this is not part of the rapid fire, but, like, on a road trip, are you, like, a get there right away kind of person, or you stop and smell the roses?
it really depends. Am I by myself? Am I in a time crunch? But I think if you have time to even set a couple hours or even a half day,
Yeah,
or an extra day or two, and you're doing a road trip, you end up meeting locals, and they tell you about these hot springs that are
right.
gorgeous, or this hotel or this hike you should do, and if you're like missioning to get somewhere, you're going to miss it.
Yeah,
um, which I'm like a pretty mission
I am
person.
too. I have a
Yeah.
problem with that.
I'm like, okay, I need to drive from Laguna to Whistler, and uh, Google Maps says 19 and a half hours. I can do it in 17. Like,
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's just I think that's just our competitive spirit because I do the exact same thing.
yeah,
We're not competitive at all.
no.
Moving on. Number 10, the last one. What are the top 3 places that you would say you have traveled to?
Oof. Um, Bonaire, which is Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire, which is just north of Venezuela. So it's the
Okay.
ABC Islands, which is the Dutch Antilles. The southern is this really small state, and it has 9,000 donkeys and 5,000 people, but it has some of the most beautiful windsurfing. It has some of the most beautiful windsurfing and kite surfing that you can experience. And the water, there's this place called Lac Bay, and it's like turquoise water, waist deep water, with sand, and there's nice wind every day, and you just kind of like can learn how to windsurf or blast around windsurfing or kite surfing all day there.
Amazing.
So that's one. Second would be New Zealand. I've
Mm,
spent 3 years of my life in New Zealand, so it's like a second home to me. On and
yeah,
off since 2001 until 2016. So anywhere in New Zealand, I think
yeah.
is absolute magic. Um, and then Europe. Like, I mean, there you can pick out anywhere in Europe.
Yeah.
And
That's not wrong.
right? Like if you're in Italy and you're in Lake Garda, or you're in Sicily, or you're in the south of France, or you're in the Alps, or you're in Holland, or you're in England, and everywhere you go, there's like this deep history that is beautiful, and it feels a lot older than Canada in the sense of cultural history,
Mhm.
and it's and yeah, it's I love
Just
like
Europe.
just Europe.
Boom.
Boom.
Done
Like
and dusted.
go
I like it.
anywhere, go to the churches, go immerse yourself in the culture wherever you go, and you can't go wrong.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for doing my rapid fire. That's never rapid, but the listeners get to know you a little bit better. Now let's talk about being on the road. How long were you on the national team for?
I joined national team in 2000,
Mhm.
and then I guess I was officially off it in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
16 years on the road, 15 years on the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where would you say, like, did you travel with the girls and the boys, like windsurfing?
Yeah.
Is that how it
So
worked?
when I started pretty late. I started when I was 17, and so at that time there was Canadian youth team, and we were
Okay.
traveling, and we went to like, I think one of the first trips I went to was Martinique in the Caribbean with there was like 5 Canadian windsurfers, and we went down there to go train with the French team.
Yeah.
And I had a total crush on this French Canadian girl, and she was going, and she's like, "Oh, you should come." And I'm like, "Okay." I got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and so we would travel with a team when we were younger, but then as we got older and started getting on the senior national team, then
Mm.
you kind of started to pick who you wanted to travel with. So I would pick training partners that were usually significantly better than me.
Yeah.
But
Wait, why do you
we
get to
would,
pick? Don't you all travel to the same place together?
yes, but because it's an individual sport,
Yeah.
um, like some countries are a little more lenient with others, where other countries are like, no, this is our team housing, this is France team, and this is US team, and but Canada. By the time I was getting on the senior team, there was kind of less people that were competing, and they were on more on the East Coast. So they were in Toronto and Montreal and Halifax, and I was kind of one of the only West Coast guys, besides
Okay.
Nicola Gurki, and yeah. So I mean, in certain competitions we would travel together, but other than that, if you're going to be traveling 10 months a year and living with people, it's nice to
Yeah.
do that with like the people that are your best friends on the tour, and obviously you
Okay.
make really good friends on tour. So
Yes.
um,
So who did you travel with?
well, so I mean, I started. It was a Dutchman, a New Zealander, and a Canadian walk into a bar. So there's always been this like magic combination between myself, a Dutch team member, and a New Zealand team member,
Yeah.
and so I watched multiple iterations or of that combination, and the most time then was spent from 2008 to 2016, who with Dorian van Gijzelbergen, the Dutch, who's now married to my sister. He's my brother-in-law, and he was my training partner forever. And he won the gold in London and in Rio.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dorian was my kind of main
Minor detail, folks.
um,
Training partner turned, um,
two-time
what
gold
is
medalist,
gold medalist turned brother-in-law.
turned brother-in-law. Yeah, kind of cool actually.
It's awesome. It's such a cool story. So you guys would travel together like nonstop. Would you room together as well?
Yep, we have shared rooms. We've even shared queen size beds. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
That's
it
like me and
depends.
Dom.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it depends on the situation, but I mean, I think I remember taking him camping the first time in Canada, and we went to Sombrio Beach to go surfing,
Yeah.
and it was pissing rain, and we surfed. It was really good surf though, and we like surfed super late, and it was too late to set up our tent, and we were really tired, and it
Oh
started to
gosh.
rain. So I just put up
A
a
tarp.
tarp, and the two of us were like cuddling, shivering.
I think that's one thing the listeners don't really get a vibe of or a sense of, like watching the Olympics right now. Yes, people are going head to head in single person sport, but you're literally roommates. Like, you're going home together after you've just competed together, and I think that's such a good, like, essence of it. You're like, "No, like, we were just on a trip and we just traveled together." Like, of course you're gonna travel. You become such good friends. It's amazing.
It's pretty cool. And I think probably one of the most amazing lessons out of that, Mur, is like it teaches you how to separate something that
Mhm,
happens and then letting it go. Like because
mhm.
Dorian and because we're competing against each other and you're trying to beat the other person, so therefore you're mm, giving them bad wind or whatever it is, and like you're like, oh, you're so angry in the middle of the race, but then when you're done the race, you're like, hey, that was a good race, and you kind of let it go, and then you're like, hey, we're going home together, so I'm not going to be pissed off at you because otherwise it's just going to be a crappy night.
Totally, totally. Wild. So, other than surf trips, what else would like how would a day in windsurfing go for a competition? How many days training do you have? Then you race,
Competition.
and then what happens after?
So
Is there a party?
competitions. Oh my god. I mean, that's a rhetorical question. Where's windsurfing is a part of sailing sport, right? And we all know that sailors are notorious for liking to be a.
Do we?
You want to be a drunken sailor? We can be with a drunken sailor.
Okay. You heard it here.
um, so, oh yeah. Well, so there's 7 days of racing, or 6 days of racing for world championships or
Yep.
World Cups, or kind of 5 days. And so it's quite a bit of racing. You wake up in the morning. It's an endurance slash sprint sport, so you're training for everything, um, and then we would go on the water around 9 or 10 a.m. And then you would usually be on the water from let's say 2 to 5 hours on average.
Okay.
And then each race is about 45 minutes long, and 3 races a day, 7 days of racing. If you finish first, you get 1 point. If you finish last, let's say 50th, you get 50 points. Person with the least amount of points at the end wins, like golf.
That's a lot of long 7 days, 3
It's a
times a day out there.
it's a
You
long
have,
it's a
like, 1 beer after, and you're probably wasted
we don't drink we drink after the entire
after.
event. After sometimes we have a reserve day for weather conditions because our
Yeah.
sport is so subject to wind and weather.
Mhm.
So sometimes if we get all the racing done, then we have a rest day, the reserve day, where we don't need to race, and then you can have
Yeah.
like 1 beer on the last day of the prelim night because it like kind of like forget about everything that happened and just relax, and then you have a day off the next day and you can be hungover from your 1 beer.
Oh, wild. I do wanna touch on Rio. Those games were kind of a whirlwind for you, right? Do
Yes.
you wanna give us the inside scoop on that?
uh yeah, I haven't really spoken publicly about this, but I think it's enough time now.
Okay.
um so it was, yeah, I mean, I took time off after London Olympics. So Dorian finished first there, and I did a 8th place in London, which was a for Canada our best result in windsurfing. And so I was absolutely stoked to get a top 10. That was kind of my
Heck yeah.
goal, and so 8th was um, decent. Proud of, definitely can say I'm proud of that.
Yes.
And then my brother, but the guy who was dating my sister, who became my brother-in-law, won the gold medal, and then I was one of his main training, or I was main training partner. So,
So
um,
amazing.
yeah, so that was a nice one. So then after that, I took some time off, and then started to build the company with my sister. And I had, my priority after 12 years of competing for Canada, I decided that I'm not going to make a living or be able to put a roof over my house, especially living in Vancouver or trying to live in Whistler.
I've
Um,
always said this on this podcast, it's not easy being a Canadian athlete.
it's not at all. Unless you're like a track star, pretty much,
Yeah.
or a hockey player or whatever, um, or basketball player.
Yeah. So you started the company with your sister?
So I started the company with my sister, or my sister started it, and I joined
Yeah,
her. It's
her baby.
her baby, um, and uh, and then I just kept training. Dorian, we all moved in together. It was pretty crazy. So I was like my training partner, then
Your
moved in
sister.
with and then my sister and I were running company out of a garage, and it was just like
Family first, man.
it was a
You are
really
all one big
interesting
happy family.
triangle.
And
Dorian's
then
going.
you were still training,
So I was still
did you
training.
think you were gonna go to the next games?
So I was trying to give back to the sport at the time. So I wanted to inspire some of the youth and
Mhm.
help coach them. So I was trying to get Canadian youth or like younger generation Canadians up to a level that they could um,
Okay. Cool, cool, cool.
represent.
Yeah.
And at the same time, yeah, I was training. I mean, I was still, I was, I struggled a little bit there because there's a transition from, you're producing endorphins every day, then you're sitting in front of a computer screen and
Yeah.
you don't feel the same. So I had to keep things going, and my dad got sick with cancer. And so then I found that exercise and athletics and getting outside really helped kind of deal with that
Yeah.
entire stress load of the whole family dynamic with dad and his cancer, and then business and everything. So I was really trying to find a balance, and
Yeah.
I found that I can say like, yeah, for the Rio Olympics, but it's going to be at
Yeah.
kind of my tempo. Um,
Mhm.
and so anyway, so then I kept training, and then I ended up meeting the criteria, at least to what it was believed to have been communicated,
Yeah.
to meet the criteria for the Rio Olympics. And that being said, there's a couple other factors involved. So I was the top performing sailing athlete at the London Games for Canada,
Mhm.
out of the 9 sailing classes or 10 sailing classes. And I've spent a lot of time in Rio. So I did the Pan Am Games in Rio, and I've lived on and off in Rio from 2001 until 2016. And I probably spent about close to a year of my life there. So I
Yeah.
was very, very familiar with the Bay. So anyway, so in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to Rio. So like, I'm going to confirm working, and I can afford to like, oh, connections, stand by.
No, I got you.
Okay. And so I'm like, great, I'm working. I'm not going to stay in the athletes village, which is an hour and a half each way from the sailing venue. So that's 3 hours in the bus. I'm
Yeah.
like, that I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, booked my flight. All my equipment was already down there. Everything was good. And then I got a notification that they weren't going to send anyone. Now Canada had a spot in Rio for male windsurfing, and
Yeah.
I had also worked with multiple younger generations to get them up there, and
Yeah.
they were really close to pushing me,
They
and
didn't send anyone for
they
windsurfing
didn't
though.
send anyone.
Yeah.
They didn't send anyone, which was pretty sad because we had a spot,
Mhm.
and I'm like, my whole thing was like, look, if I don't go, whatever, at least
Send a
send
young buck.
send one of the younger guys so that they
Yeah.
can get experience
Yeah,
and know
yeah.
what it's, and then keep the sport alive. Like, if we're not
For
going to send
sure.
anyone, then why are like people train because that's the pinnacle of sport. You like get to go and represent your country at the Olympics. You get to go and you get to wear the maple leaf and feel so proud to walk into a stadium
Exactly.
and and
Exactly.
and be so proud to represent your country.
And what happened for the Tokyo Games?
Tokyo
Did they
Games.
send windsurfers when Nikki went?
No, so I'm actually the last male windsurfer. So I'm the only male
Oh,
windsurfer that's gone for Canada since 1996.
wow. But okay, let's talk about Rio and how much fun you had there though, because you
Oh,
still
okay.
went.
Yeah. So okay. So they're like,
Like this is an athlete's dream, I would think, like a dream come
well,
true in like the shittiest situation that happened.
I
You
mean,
made lemonade from lemons.
I made it rain lemonade.
Yeah.
I was just pumping out margaritas with lime and lemonade.
Oh my goodness.
But so yeah, they were like, no, you're not going. I'm like, well, I have my place paid for, and I already have my flight and all my equipment. I need to go down there and get all my equipment and all my personal belongings anyway.
Right.
And my brother-in-law is now he's married to my sister, and they have a kid.
Yeah.
And so my brother-in-law is competing, and then all my other friends are competing, and
Yeah.
the really cool thing about I think one of the biggest things I miss about the Olympic culture is the sense of community, that it's
Mhm.
like anyone from any country, from any culture, from any background, ethnicity, religion, whatever it is. It's like everyone comes together, and it's this incredible community that
Yeah,
is
it
very
really is.
accepting. Like for like a lot of people, that's like that don't get to experience that. It's like Burning Man in a sense, right?
Haven't been, wanna go.
Yeah, same thing, just not as healthy, I guess you could say. Or you could
Or
say, or some people I know, like they go and they're completely healthy and they have like
yeah,
this
yeah,
amazing
yeah.
experience where they're doing like yoga retreats and this and that there. And so,
Totally, totally.
but
So Rio, what was the game plan
so
then?
Rio, the game plan was just to go. Like I had this really amazing penthouse apartment that
Yeah.
overlooked the sailing venue, and there was like massive binoculars in it, and I was like right across from the sailing venue. I mean, I had
So
athletes
cool.
coming up when they were waiting for the wind to fill in and they didn't
Yeah.
want to hang out at the venue. They were coming over to my place, and we were having like they were having naps on my bed or on my day bed, and we were having
So awesome.
snacks and everything, and we could see the flagpole. So when the post, it was really nice. So
Phenomenal.
I had a really cool spot. I was like, I think I was like the party host, kind of like for all the after parties. I was
I feel like
like,
you would be the hostess with the mostest.
so everyone was like, Zach, where's the party tonight? All the athletes, and so it was like with the swimmers and the volleyball and the and the field hockey, and I don't know how many athletes came through my place there, but it was really cool
I
to
love it.
at least go to the games, and that was kind of like that was really the last time after that I had a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and that
Mhm.
was kind of my last like my last presence with a major international competition, even though I didn't compete in
Yeah.
it. But it was kind of nice for like I had to go and after 16 years to say a bit of a farewell.
Heck yeah. What about you gonna go for 3 times? You gonna start training again?
I mean, the really cool thing about what's happening in Paris 2024 is there's the hydrofoil. They changed the equipment,
Right.
so now it's a hydrofoil windsurfing. So it flies above the
Okay.
water. Yeah,
Yeah. And?
and
I feel like you're
well,
thinking about it. I feel like you're not thinking about it.
I did,
It's perfect that you're
I
frozen
tried
right
it.
now because you
I
can't say anything.
oh, am I still frozen?
Hold on. No, you there you are. What were
Am
you
I back?
saying?
I
Yeah.
think it's yeah, I have a board. I've done 2 competitions. Um, just like little regional competitions down in the US.
Cool.
And I'm in conversations. I'd love, and foiling is such a fun sport with in any form of sailing. It's just so cool to fly above the water and then not hear, because when you're in a boat or on a windsurf board, when you're moving really fast, you're it's like and
Yeah,
you're like
right, right.
skipping across the water.
Yeah.
But and you get that on a foil, but then once it starts to take off and
Yeah.
it's silence, and then you just hear the wind going over your face and past your ears.
Really cool.
It's the one of the most freeing experiences that you could live, and it's the
Okay,
closest you can
well,
get to flying. So
I could
yeah,
potentially have you as a 3-time Olympian then.
yeah, Paris
We'll
2020.
keep our fingers crossed.
I'd like to see. What I would love to see is a younger generation of Canadians come up. So if I come back,
For sure.
my objective would be to put them up to speed as fast as possible and have them beat me. But they have to beat me.
They have to
So
beat you.
they
We're
have
not
to beat me.
competitive here, guys. We're not competitive at all. Zach, thank you so much for dropping in. Where can people find you online if they'd like to find out some more about you?
I have kind of a little bit of a quiet online presence these days.
They're just gonna
Uh,
have to Google you then.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll get a website going. But for now, it's just yeah,
Just
Google or
Google him, guys.
just
Just Google
Google.
him.
But
He's awesome.
well, you're amazing, Mer. So
Oh,
you're everyone. She is this way. Yeah, this way. One of the brightest shining stars from Canada, and we should be so lucky to call her Canadian. So
oh, you're so sweet. Zach, thank you so much for dropping in, and I'll see you on the hill probably tomorrow.
awesome, Mer. Thanks.
Thanks so much for dropping in today. You can find everything you want to know about Dropping In with Mercedes at droppinginwithmercedes.com. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks DJ Kenosis for the music and my mom for the intro voice.